It's a little warm in here. I had dressed thinking it was going to be cold. And
I think it's
sad-
perfect.
I'm sad about that right now. Okay, approval of meeting minutes required on April 22nd. So let's do our meeting minutes for April 22nd, if we could, please. We've had the information for probably 3 or 4 days at this time and had the opportunity to review the meeting minutes from April 22, 2025. Could I have a motion, please?
Yep, I move to approve the meeting minutes of April 22nd, 2025.
I'll second that
We have a
motion.
motion made and seconded. Is there further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And these meeting minutes are for release. Okay, now we move into public comment, or I guess I did meeting minutes before public comment, but let's do public comment. We have a limited time because we have a kind of busy agenda, so we limit the public comment period to a total of 15 minutes. If there's more than one person who talks, we'd appreciate it looks as if we have no public comment, which is a very unusual circumstance, so that's great.
Roger does.
Roger.
I do. And they don't know what you mean by public comment.
I can't hear
Something
you.
not on the agenda.
If you can't hear me, just please say you can't hear me. I can
Can't hear.
I can do my cafeteria voice, I'm good.
I'm having a hard time.
Okay, I'll do my cafeteria voice.
Okay, yep, speak up.
Do you have the dam on the agenda?
Oh, we're gonna
Yeah.
put this to the next
I
agenda.
don't know, I wanna know that, asking her that. Yeah. Is the reservoir on the agenda?
I'm sorry?
Is
Yeah,
the old
yes it
reservoir on
is,
the agenda?
yes it is.
Yeah, well, no, it hasn't.
I'm getting worried about you. You have too many of these meetings.
We got planning board stuff, well, common stuff. I don't wanna say
You can't do it.
No.
common interest.
It appears, Mr. Courier, that you are here to tend your
I am
resignation.
here to tender my resignation from the Chair of the Council on Aging, as well as any other duties that come with that. I do not support the direction that the director is leading the organization in, or the culture she is fostering.
Well, thank you so much for your participation with the center. I'm sorry that you feel it necessary to resign, but I understand perhaps that is your need at this time. So thank you for your service, appreciate it.
Problem.
We thought
Thanks,
the
Roger.
reason you were leaving is because you didn't like the way they were having their
Well, put this on the
party.
agenda, accept it.
I think we could just simply accept it.
So, we should vote on it, accept it.
Nice try.
And we can,
Yeah, we can accept it.
we can?
Can someone have a motion regarding this matter?
Yeah, I move to accept Roger Courier's resignation on the Council on Aging. He's the chair of Council on Aging, and also, the way this is written, the Council on Aging as a whole.
Mhm.
Okay, that's my motion.
We have a motion made and seconded to accept with regret Mr. Courier's resignation from the chair of the Council on Aging. We wish him well and hope that he decides to come back and continue to contribute to the Council on Aging. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That looks like it's a vote. Okay, moving along. I'm going to guess, we have a lot of report stuff. I'm just going to guess, okay, that, where is the dam? I think the dam is on here somewhere, am I right? There it is,
Yeah.
right here under
Aye.
Town Administrator.
And it's an old
Reports.
business.
Pardon me?
It's an old business as well.
Yep, and it's in old business as well. My guess is no one wants to hang around here to old business, and you'd prefer to take
Can't
this.
hear a word.
Okay, I guess you don't want to hang around here too long, and you are, there's a lot of individuals here that want to have a conversation about the old reservoir dam.
Yes.
And so we will move to,
There's a lot of people who thought this meeting was gonna start at 6 until it changed to start at 5 today.
Oh.
So they're probably see that it's on the end of the agenda and we're going to be attending tonight.
okay, it could be. Well, I have no problem with giving a little bit of extra time if there are people who you think will be coming a little later. Obviously, we were in executive session for the first 45 minutes, so, anyway,
Maybe around 6:30, we can see.
yeah,
see
we
what's
we
here.
can protect, entertain it. I just don't want to waste your time with a lot of other business if it would be helpful for us to move this forward.
For the reservoir, you probably lose half of us.
I am so sorry about that. Okay, let's, we will not spend too much time on the dam, we'll just keep going through the rest of the meeting. Town administrator report,
And it wasn't James.
Yes, I have,
5:15.
you have to speak a lot louder than that, because I guess they're having trouble hearing us.
Yes. So, there were 5 towns that had participated in a digital equity workshop, which I think many have seen it on Facebook and everything. It was a workshop that talked about internet access and other things like that, the skills and everything that we needed. And because there were 5 towns that participated, it was Barre, New Braintree, West Brookfield, Hardwick, and North Brookfield. And because we did this digital workshop, we were able to enter into a $100,000 implementation grant. So,
What kind of grant?
an implementation grant fund. So with that, I worked with the library director, Joe Hood, and CMRPC, and we put in an application for the funds of laptops, keyboards, mice, and charging cabinets, so the library can incorporate a rolling computer lab for public use technology classes in the library. So that was submitted, so cross your fingers, hopefully we get it.
Is that 100% grant, or do we have to match anything?
We don't have to match anything, it would be a reimbursement. That's why we did all that extra stuff with the digital workshop, so. The next thing I wanted to go over, which I know was another big thing, was the master plan. We ended up getting a $50,000, with working with Central Mass Regional Planning Commissioners. We ended up getting a $50,000 grant for our second phase for the master plan. Notes here. Basically what it does is the master plan that we already had, it does like our future growth, it talks about the economic development, service and facilities, land use, zoning, housing, open space, recreation, transportation. And I'm gonna have Sandy putting this and uploading it on the website so everybody can see what we've already done on phase 1. So phase 2, they will incorporate more things, and I think you're gonna be hopefully on that. You were in the Zoom meeting with me as well, Richie, so you'll be noted as more Zoom meetings as they go forth with the master plan, so. And then the last thing was the dam, and Maureen has those questions, I think she's saving them for the end, right?
Well, we will save them for the end if there's a group of public who are waiting, or thinking we're going a little bit out of our agenda, so we'll wait for that. Moving on to select board reports. Rich, you want to lead our discussion on item number 1?
Yeah, so I wanted to put discussion on Prop 2.5 override on the agenda tonight. There's been some discussion already in the community whether this is a good thing for our town or not, or whether we need to actually get to a Prop 2.5 override. Honestly, I can't remember the last time we did a Prop 2.5 override in the town of Barre. Maybe somebody knows that date, but it's been a very long time. We do have,
No, not mine.
we do still have a budget gap that we've been working on, and the legislature down the State House has been working on the budget, so we hope to have maybe the end of the week.
We have the House budget will be reported out tomorrow. I will tell you that tax revenues into the state of Massachusetts are up compared to last year. All of that is good information for the state. Now, whether or not some of that trickles down to us, we'll know more tomorrow and even more by Friday, because obviously they'll make adjustments by us nagging, complaining, and, putting in some amendments if necessary. We know that schools, there are 234 school districts out of 319 who are getting 0 in Chapter 70. That is bad news for all of us. And there are some other pieces of legislation that could help us out, which are minimum aid for each student, which could go as high as $150 a student. That would be very good. Maybe $104, maybe $75, which is what the governor recommended, but we think the House will do better. We know also that we worked very hard to get some monies from the supplemental budget, which was the millionaire's tax that was left over from the past fiscal year. That money can be regional transportation can be rolled over. If you get it out of FY '25 funds, you can still spend it in FY '26. So we're hopeful that that may come, because obviously, at least a $2 million budget for transportation for students to and from the Quabbin Regional School District, and we are obviously obligated to pay a portion of that. So we're worried about what's gonna happen with schools, because they're due to come into budget and finance. That would be Monty Tech as well as Quabbin Regional. We know that there's no good news for schools yet, because the budget's not reported out. So they will put the assessments for us, assuming that they don't get anything new. Those assessments will be crippling, but they will be sort of make-believe until we get through the House at least, and then most of the Senate budget. So please understand that we work very hard at the state level, especially in the area of local aid and schools, because those are a big driver for our budget. The 2.5 override, here's what I worry about. I worry about the fact that Quabbin is 5 towns. All 4 of the other towns will have voted by the time we go to town meeting, and that is by our design. Because if the other 4 towns have already passed the budget, that tells us we're not gonna be negotiating that number on the floor. We got stuck with that budget. Now, if it hasn't been voted and New Braintree holds out as long as it sometimes does, Barre will have maneuvering room then, because you will have a capacity to work with the number, because they're trying to get the 4th town, and we could be the 4th town. So, we worry about that.
Absolutely.
I certainly have heard the override conversation, and we have never had an actual override in the town of Barre. We've had debt exclusions. Debt exclusion for the common, debt exclusion for the new fire truck, debt exclusion for, help me, Matt, Ruggles Lane roof. A debt exclusion, I think, for the, Quabbin roof when we were still paying. I think that's paid off. So big capital items like that, we've had debt exclusions. That means when the roof is paid off, it comes off the tax rate. An override is, if you say, we're gonna need, I'm making up numbers, we're gonna need $100,000 more than we think we can raise locally. We're gonna put on a question, and we're gonna ask the town, would you, pay an extra $100,000 to pay for police, fire, schools, whatever we think. Those are the areas we're gonna have trouble with: fire chief, fire, police, and schools. Those are the big areas, drivers for us. And then we'd have numbers, and we'd say, if you pass it, our staffing pattern stays the same. If you don't pass it, this might happen. But we don't know what those numbers could look like until we see what the state budget's gonna look like. So, do we need an override? We're not sure. Do we think we do? Yeah, we do. We think we do. We only think we do because we know that for the police department to remain at staffing pattern, for us to have the advanced life systems, ambulance services, and have paramedics on the things, those, our salaries are low. We've been kicking them up, and in order to keep the personnel that we currently have working, we probably are going to have to look at very carefully the possibility of an override. We hope we don't have to do it. Tammy says, just do it and start moving the budget forward. But that's easy to say, tougher to pass. But just to let you know that we're thinking about it.
Right, but it's tight right now. The finance committee's finishing up their work. Tammy's been crunching numbers in her office. We've all been looking at the numbers, and we've got a gap. Until we know what the state's gonna do or not do.
What they did is, remember, rural schools. Rural school aid is a relatively new thing over the last 4 or 5 years. Rural school aid was at about $6 million about 2 years ago. They went to $16 million. We are huge recipients in the Quabbin Regional School District of rural aid. The House budget, as it first appeared, was cut from $16 million to $7 million. We're not happy about that. Of course, we have amendments in there, and so what will come out tomorrow will be critical to us. We hear that it's the Senate that will push that forward, so we're not gonna have good numbers for rural schools. If we don't have good numbers for rural schools, Quabbin will be in trouble for a while. We do think the Senate will make that happen. We do. But of course, we don't know. So the worst thing that we just don't have what we call, numbers from the state, what we call, shall we say, they're supposed to give them to us March 1st, but we don't get any numbers from the state of any consequence until well into early June. So, that's why we're late with our town meeting by design. Because we really would rather not have an override, and we really would have the best numbers we can to put the budget together. So that's,
Yeah, we still have the fire truck payment as
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
so we're
yeah.
juggling all the numbers, but
Yeah.
there is a gap right now, and we'll know more when FinCom finishes and Tammy,
Oh, we'll
doing
know.
her due diligence, and once we get the state numbers, hopefully, some inkling, maybe the end of the week, where we're gonna be, but it's time to,
I would say we won't have a good inkling until mid-May when you see the Senate budget come out and you can see what
Sure.
might go to conference.
So, you've said a couple times that we go last by design. I'm pro-worker, I'm pro-education. But if we're gonna start reining in the budget somehow, wouldn't it be helpful if we went first? And we're the biggest of the 5 towns, so by the time the other towns vote, we don't get a say in the school budget. If we went first, maybe we could kind of help craft that school budget and rein it in a little bit.
Well, the
Keep in
problem,
mind, I have 2 kids in the school district, and I love teachers and custodians and cafeteria workers, but, you know.
that's
pay
what I usually get
96
accused of,
I pay
loving cafeteria workers and
$9,600.
school people.
My property tax is $9,600 for a single-family house.
Well, it's not just a single-family house. In fairness.
I don't live in Southborough, I'm not on town water, I'm not on.
No,
town
I
sewer.
hear ya.
I gotta go to the dump.
Well, me either. I'm not on town water or anything, but, you know, to say that you just have a regular, single-family home would not be really fair.
Well, it's not worth what the town.
Unless you're
thinks
paying the
it's worth.
$10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm paying my own 10.
So, and with the override on the fire truck that we just voted on, it's gonna go. up
Debt
another-
exclusion.
Debt exclusion.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
It's gonna go up another 125,
Mhm.
and if you start looking at a 2.5, I'll be at about 10.5, maybe 11,000 on property tax for a home in Barre.
Mhm.
It seems kind of like you're paying to live in your house. I mean, literally, it's like rent.
Well,
That's
it's,
a lot.
well, yeah,
I
well,
don't feel so bad now.
well, there's no question that nobody wants to pay
No.
more taxes, but,
I had a question with the school population, it peaked at 3,000,
yes.
and recently it's down to 1,800.
So it's probably hovers around 1,900, yeah.
Yep. So that's a considerable decrease,
Mhm.
and the budget keeps going up.
Mhm.
Has there been any adjustment in the institution to accommodate the scale of
Yeah,
the?
the problem is, because of the way in which the formula for Chapter 70 is distributed, Chapter 70 is distributed by head count. And so once the head count begins to go down, when the first 100, no big deal. You're stuck at the enrollment at Quabbin has been decreasing for 20 years. For 20 years, the state has not done anything. So because of that, the towns have had to, because inflation is not zero. So what happens is the towns are filling in. Even though we're reducing force, the cost of force goes up. Where we can't reduce the space in the buildings and we still have to heat what we heat. Transportation is unbelievably expensive and has increased, double digits, okay? And because we still are driving a lot of kids from a lot of places. So that being said, special education has been a huge cost, driver for schools. Special education programming, where we spend our students that need additional services that we need to provide. All of that, all of those increases are not, supported by Chapter 70 anymore in the Quabbin Regional School District or in 233 other school districts in the Commonwealth. We're not the only ones who are struggling under the Chapter 70 formula there is legislation to open up the books and to fix it. Because the state has decided in Chapter 70 that the towns will pay 59% of the costs of education, and they'll pay 41%. That split has to change. If it doesn't, there's no hope for locals. We can't, as you point out, we can't. In the state's constitution, the duty to cherish is the line. They have an obligation to support schools. It's not the locals' problem, it's the state's problem. But pushing back on that and making that happen takes a lot of legislative work. And, I would tell you that I watch who votes for what, and I watch what our reps vote for. And I know a rep who, if you can believe this, okay, who services the Quabbin Regional Schools, who voted against increasing funding for transportation for regional schools. I find that abhorrent. However, it happens. And there will be the reason. The reason is, well, I need to get this from so-and-so, so I needed to not support the regional school transportation thing. But yes, enrollments have decreased, but money has stayed and it's just, we just can't pay the inflationary rate, and we can't, because teacher salaries have gone up, administrative salaries have gone up, the cost of books have gone, I can go on and on.
Right, but it also just seems like there must be a lot of empty rooms, there must be a lot of building that we're maintaining, heating, cooling.
Well,
Is there any way that we can consolidate the system to close
absolutely.
down some of the regional?
But the regional agreement is specific, that it says that the school committee cannot, close any one of the schools without the school committee members from that town voting to agree, okay? And so people would say to me when I used to be superintendent, why don't you run this place like a business? Well, it's not a business, number one, but number two, if I were running Walmart and I had no traffic in this store, what would I do? I'd close that school. I have no traffic in one of the elementary schools, will freely admit it. But the town refuses to close the school. So we try to put a few little programs in there to make it work. And what the state does, they say close the school, but the state does what we call clawback. It'll say, hey, we put a roof on that school 20 years ago, it's 10 years ago. We're gonna claw back the money we gave you for that roof if you do that. Either keep it a school or you don't get to keep, payments from the school building authority.
Well, now we know why our taxes are higher.
Well, they're higher than they need to be because the state has really walked away from schools, but now there's so many schools that they've walked away from, we have a little more, I think, power to persuade, I hope.
But is there a plan to accommodate the future of a lower population? I mean, because it seems like we're just gonna keep on moving ahead with the same problem and just keep kicking empty space down the road. So
Well, currently, the Quabbin Regional School District is in negotiations with 5 towns about a new regional agreement, which could allow for the opportunity to close some schools. There are some towns within the district that says, close it. We want to make it a town hall, because we don't have a town hall in our town. Move the kids, okay? Could we move all the kids from 2 towns into say, the New Braintree? Yeah, we could. We've done it before. But it's so tight that 2 kids come in, it's really tight. We have a lot, I know that many of you don't go to Ruggles Lane, maybe if you don't have children there, but I really urge you, any morning that you'd like, because the people say, those buses go by and there's no kids in them. The kids are so tiny and the seats are so high now that you can't see them. So it looks like the bus is empty, but they're there. But I want you to go to the schools and I want you to watch how many handicap vans, and I don't mean just handicap vans, I mean vans where students are in wheelchairs, all kinds of assistance with them, with nurses with them, and getting off and going into our public schools and having the kind of education that they deserve. And so you look at it and you think you think schools are like when you went. They're not. They're very different. They're very different. The kids have the same problems, but the kids who didn't have the capacity to come to school didn't come to school when we were in school. And quite frankly, a lot of the children that we have in our elementary schools are medically fragile children who never would have lived long enough to come to elementary school, and now they do. So understanding that it's not a simple thing, like just too few, and we're kind of just hanging around at that 1,900, and have now for the last 5 or 6 years. But the birth rate everywhere is declining or less than it used to be. So I would say school buildings are emptier than they used to be. And if they didn't do the clawback, I would believe that we would sell schools, but we can't.
What do you repurpose?
Well, we can't repurpose, because they take the money back from the time,
Right.
yeah, that's the problem, yeah.
Well, and I don't know if you can answer this, because obviously you're not working for the school system anymore, so you can't actually speak for all that, but how are they dealing with the increased number of homeschooling too? Because I've got a strong feeling it's not just because there's no kids in Barre. I know people in other towns that are part of Quabbin that have even told me, no, I'm never sending them back. And so I remember back in the day being on the select board, it was supposedly this number that's hard to quantify. Because They don't necessarily,
They don't have to sign up.
right, so that, what confuses me there though is if they're registered in the state, is the state not making sure they're getting some type of schooling? So aren't they quantified somehow?
Well, they're quantified as best we can based on three-year-old census and the census that the town clerk has. Obviously, we look at those and we investigate who is the student. Because see, if your student goes to a private school, the private school has to send information to the public school and say, Maureen Marshall's here with me. And so we keep track of them. But there are families who make it very difficult, if not impossible, to find out whether their children are going to school, if they are going to school. Some of the students that we have who are on school, what we would say homeschooling, okay, are on homeschooling and their parents, send the curriculum that they're going to, work with. And sometimes they have all of their children home. Sometimes they have their children home until maybe 7th or 8th grade. Then they send them back to school. If they're out of school and homeschooling, they can still come to school, for example, and play sports, or be in the glee club, or play in the band. So we keep track of them somehow that way. There are some families who are very secretive about where their children are and where they live, and they don't want you to know about it. And yes, we do have truant officers. We do try to send them to the appropriate places. We have been in court over the years with parents who refuse to participate in a way to let the public, institutions know that they have school-age children. Because sadly, we have to file. If we're the school and we know there's school-age children, but the parent refuses to allow us to know that the student is there and that kind of stuff, we file. And then they become, social service they get the social service visit. Because I know you don't think this happens, but there are situations where children are not being well cared for. It is.
Not being taught well.
Well, taught well is secondary to being cared for, but there's no question, sometimes we get homeschool students who, struggle immensely. They come and they go, oh my gosh, they thought they knew math or whatever. It's very difficult to be the homeschool parent and really understand exactly what students should know and when they should know it. Some parents do a phenomenal job and the students are well prepared and do very well. Other situations aren't. I can't imagine being home with 2 or 3, elementary school kids and thinking I'm doing a great job teaching them. I've got education degrees. But people are, some people do a really good job. Other situations are troublesome.
Do parents need to be certified?
Does the school have any lesson plans and assistants that go to them if they choose?
We have curriculum, but we do have stuff that they can use from the schools, yes. But I know we're beyond the override.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to bring that subject forward because people are talking about it in the community and we're nowhere near making that decision yet, but we do have some serious budget cuts to get the budget gap if the state doesn't come through. So it's important that the taxpayers know that
We could be asking.
the numbers aren't great, and we could be making some very significant cuts, and that means a level of service deduction. So that's why I want to bring it forward tonight. The next thing I had on my select board update is the town common bandstand grass, and is right close to the bandstand, that grass has died, so that needs to be scarified out, the soil scarified and reseeded. And there's a couple other areas, South Common and the small common, I kind of walked around the commons that could use some attention. And you asked me to, to stop by.
Oh, I know when to ask a farmer.
So, and then, I don't know when the last time we did any fertilizer or liming down on the common, and again, it's cost prohibitive to do that, but if you're gonna maintain grass, we have to feed the nutrients, or it's just gonna die. So that was the other concern, is I don't know what the pH is of the soil, and we can seed and do all that labor and all that stuff, but the soil's not conducive to growing grass, so we need to look at that.
Is that where the rink is?
Yeah.
What's
Is that where the rink is, that location, is that what you're
Well, excuse me, it was closer to where it was, but
Yeah.
closer to the bandstand,
Yeah.
maybe
Okay.
that far corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A little bit on South Common, so, I mean, I know we need to be careful about nitrogen and all that, all the fertilizers and all that stuff, I understand all that, we have stormwater management, we have stormwater drains, but if our pH is off and our soil's not conducive to growing grass, we can spend a lot of labor and not grow grass.
Mhm.
So,
I have a pH tester, I'd be willing to go and test it if you want.
so being a farmer, I mean, that's what we do.
the 15 minutes of this subject, because we've got
so many to cover.
Okay, geez, Bridget, you're hard on me. Okay. Fire station surplus inventory, we're doing, I see some removal of surplus
Well,
equipment.
the Chief DPW will be coming before the board at some point. He's been looking at the surplus inventory in the buildings, he's been looking at the buildings, what can be discarded, what could be put on municipal bid and bring some value back to the town that they no longer need or are using. So I'm just bringing that forward, that he'll be coming at some point with a list of items for us to look at.
Okay, I was involved in a meeting today for the High Plains Playground. Sir?
I just wanted to comment on Richard's minute ago comment.
He was right behind you with his hand up first.
Oh,
Come on, Sam,
Rich,
be
would
nice.
some of that stuff include the old public safety repeater system?
It very well could. Whatever equipment is
Yeah.
in those buildings, we're looking at and identifying, including one of the fire stations that's being used for storage that may no longer be used for storage, and then the select board would have to determine what to do with that building at that time.
I see.
Or ultimately town meeting vote, maybe.
Well, that system is up here on the 3rd floor.
Yeah.
And I thought we should maybe consider holding onto it for emergency management purposes. It looks completely operational up there. It's pretty new, the manuals are there.
Mhm.
It seems they just disconnected it from the antenna on the roof. The hard line is disconnected.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sam, you had a question?
Yeah, in one of the last meetings, there was some sort of discussions about not accepting one new fire truck and maybe paying the company that manufactured this some sort of a fee to not complete
To my knowledge,
with a
there was,
contract.
there was never any such conversation at the select board level.
Oh, really? And I didn't make it up.
Well, I've never missed a meeting and I don't remember it.
I mean, maybe it was in the finance committee.
It could have been, and I don't attend all of those, just most of them.
But I did hear that. I was a little puzzled that you went so far, and then there was talk about giving money back to the company that manufactured it to stop the contract.
I don't think, I've never been involved in a conversation
Anyway,
regarding that.
well, maybe someone will share with the finance, because I don't think I made it up.
no, I remember hearing something about that.
I
forget which meeting. I don't remember.
It was a finance meeting. It wasn't talked, it was just mentioned that if they were to cancel the truck, it was gonna cost them like 85% of the truck. And we don't get the truck. It just
Yeah.
wasn't worth it.
That doesn't make much sense.
Okay, moving on, because people are eager to get to the dam.
Yeah.
Just we spent a little time this morning in a meeting with the vendor that we have established a contract with on the High Plains Playground site area up in, we're in High Plains down in this, right out of the, you know, most of you know where High Plains is?
Mhm.
Okay, good, from Southbury. So we have a great report, all of the equipment has been ordered. We'll be here in probably mid-July, hopeful that the prep work was gonna be all done by our DPW people, so they were getting the information about what they needed to do when. And they will, hopefully, we'll be having playgrounds by, I'm being conservative and saying late August, but maybe more like,
She said August 15th.
yeah, she said August 15th. So we can all hope for August 15th. It's gonna be a wonderful thing. It's an amazing site. And Tammy, thank you again for your work on getting a $100,000 grant for that. Plus, we have ARPA money that we squirreled away for another $100,000. We may be able to use a little of that to upgrade Rice Park. So we're really keeping our fingers crossed and very, very happy that we're able to do that without impacting the budget. Okay, now I think some damn people are here.
I suppose some of us senior folks need to get busy so we can have children play in the playgrounds.
Well,
Define get busy.
thanks, Mark. Okay, so, we did have a thing, review questions regarding the old reservoir dam at a previous meeting and so forth. One thing I should, before we begin the conversation about this, it has come to our attention that there may be a legal issue that has not been explored properly and that would really confuse this situation. We believe there is documentation that the owners of this property actually not only, okay, do we know who they are, but they continue to be citizens in the town of Barre.
What?
So we need to send to our attorney to investigate the information, the documentation we have found. It appears that there are people who are direct descendants of people who were part of that thing that the state said, no such people, no such people. There are such people. So if that is the case, that turns the situation a little bit different, and then we will have conversations with the state as to what does that mean. Does that mean the people who are potentially the owners or the ancestors of the owners of this property, do they have the obligation to do X or Y? We really don't know. So I know that you have all come here to have a conversation about the dam, but the circumstances revolving the obligations the town may have versus the obligations some individual citizens may have may be different. So we're going to have our attorney work with the documents that have been found that we have seen. They do exist, and many of you will know some of the owners. So I'll say, if you're a townie, you will say, oh, really, Maureen? You will know. So they may not know. They may not know. They just may not. So that being said, it makes it a very different set of responsibilities for the town. Doesn't mean we can abdicate all responsibility, but it may indeed change the way in which we'll need to approach the situation. Do you have any comments for that, Rich or Mark?
I think you nailed it. I think you said it very,
Good.
very eloquently.
Yes, Liz. Are you sad?
What?
Are you
No,
saying-
not at all.
No,
Is the state aware of this change?
Not yet,
not yet.
not yet.
This is new news to us within the last 24 hours.
Oh, wow. So we will know who, when, and why.
Yeah,
So,
we now know who. And what
Yeah.
we will do is indicate to the attorneys, so the attorneys can then do the investigations that they need to do and talk directly with the state as to who owns the high-risk dam.
Wow, good luck to them.
Maybe we know.
Yes, Blake?
I think there's a lot more to be considered than just, who owns the dam, because I'm sure the town right now is like playing hot potato, that everybody keeps trying to pass around the liability of the dam. Nobody wants to take ownership of it because it is a liability. But the liability of the dam doesn't stop at the dam. The liability is everything downstream.
Mm-hmm.
So if we push this off to an individual and, they say, oh, tear it out, I'm scared, everybody threatens them with these lawsuits, so the state comes in and they take their mandate that they've been pushing all across the state of removing dams, and then, like over in Leominster, like we've been having the other day in Hardwick, we get a massive rainfall event, the stream down below, the infrastructure can't handle this sort of a flow, and we end up losing the bridge at Valley Road. What's the cost of that? What are the costs of
Well,
homes?
I think you're jumping way ahead.
Way ahead.
I'm just trying to think, we need to jump way ahead, because
Oh,
when
well,
we're
we say-
planning for 100-year storms, we need to think 100 years down.
Well, see, the
road.
thing of it is, if we don't have the authority
Yep,
to act in the manner that we assumed we had the authority, then there's no point in me spending a lot of your time, wasting your time saying, if we had the authority, I would do this, or you should do that. So our obligation at this point is to get to the attorneys, get the information that we need, and if it ends up being still because it's an individual who owns it, but the town still has the responsibility of saying to that owner, you need to do X or Y, or the state gets to say to them, you need to do X and Y, and now that because there's a private owner, maybe the state's not gonna pay for it.
how did this
Yep.
come to light that there's possible heirs to the dam? Who was the one who took the initiative? Because the state obviously did.
Well, obviously, there are individuals who took the initiative, and we do have information now that is legal and documentation, and so obviously, we are going to, forward that to our attorney,
But who?
Was
Who
it
were
from the
individuals?
private or from?
a private individual.
So there's nothing to do with the town?
No.
Because my concern is that the town is just trying to pass liability, and we're gonna end up down the road regretting that we didn't take the initiative and do the due diligence and do what's best for the town.
Well,
And
what-
once again, we did what was cheapest for the town.
Well,
That ends up
well,
costing us
I'd
down
say,
the road.
any of the things that we would choose that had been offered by the state in the grant would not have cost us anything, at least for the initial. To, for example, change remove the dam. Remove the dam would have certainly been a very responsible thing for us to do, predicated on the information that has been shown to us by engineering studies. Now, some of you dispute the engineering studies, et cetera. I get that. But, so, we certainly were not trying to walk away from our obligation to do something. What we were trying to do is not only get an opinion from the community, but to try to do the something that would be in the best interest of the environment, of the town, and of the, obviously, the people who are in that particular proximity where if there is a problem with a high hazard dam, and some of us dispute whether it's a high hazard dam or not, but we do have new information, and obviously, we need to investigate that thoroughly before we make further decisions.
But also too, I want to clarify, because a lot of times it's been misrepresented, the term high hazard. And high hazard isn't in regards to the condition or the safety of the dam. It's in regard to the danger presented in failure. And if you look at the standards for engineering, if the dam is re-engineered, the chance of failure is less than 1% because of the liability of a failure. So again, that term, the high hazard, keeps getting thrown around as if the dam itself is high hazard. It'd be like saying a skyscraper is high hazard because of the height. It doesn't mean the skyscraper is gonna fall down. So I just wanna make sure it's clear, because in the newspaper and other places, they've said high hazard, and then they state how it's in disrepair. So I just wanted to clarify terminology.
Well,
Also, just to clarify on that, a skyscraper has a lot more maintenance and engineering requirements and annual inspections, et cetera, to maintain it, just like a higher hazard dam has. More maintenance, more costs, more engineering, and more inspections to make sure it keeps the public safe. So,
And
comparably, yes, the effort to keep it there so it's not a hazard increases the larger it is.
So we have to make sure that we don't have owners alive and or heirs alive, so the town doesn't take an action against somebody that actually owns the property. And we have information today that leads us to believe that there are owners and heirs alive today. So we need to fish that out with the legal counsel and make sure that we're on solid ground before we make any decision, before this board makes any decision. Because I wouldn't like it if someone stepped on my property without me knowing about
well,
it.
in hindsight, if it were me and there was a real high hazard issue, I'd be happy to see it take it out of my life, but,
I would also say that the town's not taking action, the town is letting the state take action. You're just choosing which action you prefer that they offer to do.
But there are,
So just remember, I don't think you would be liable if they went and took someone's
Yeah.
private dam down,
But the
because they told you the owners don't exist. It's not the other way around.
right, but who did due diligence?
I don't disagree with that.
it was a state.
Now that you have the info, it's definitely worth it, but nobody was answering until apparently the last 24 hours.
Well, I wanna make sure. If they're alive, they need to be talked to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask the question that was on the agenda that was asked last week. Have you gotten any additional information about whether these funds are in jeopardy or they've been spent? Is there any impact from
Good
federal
question.
cuts to these? Are these state funds still available?
Yes.
And they will be even if you prolong it?
Don't know that answer,
Well,
but
well,
they're available right now.
They're frustrated with us, no question about that, I would say.
So they haven't been spent by other towns?
No.
Not yet. I picked up the phone with Tammy and called the lady in charge just to see where the funding was, because the feds are yanking back money, the state's trying to balance their budget. So I suspected the money was gonna dry up, and as of right now, the money's there, but I don't know how long it's gonna be there. It could disappear on Friday, I don't know.
Jim?
Was there a title search done on the property?
Yes, by the state.
They can't figure out who.
Well, they came and made a presentation of how many times they had gone through this due diligence and that there was no owner. Everyone was dead, heirs were dead or not, available for conversation. And that somehow it was gonna be the town's issue. So, I apologize to you for coming out. I know that some of you like to be already in bed, but it is only 7:10, and the dam is still on hold, shall we say.
Well, it's just good to know something's being done and that, well, like I said, I think whatever, it should be there. Someday we might need that water, that thing and everything. Plus,
Well, you never know if the dam would break.
Hey, if it does, it's gonna go down the river.
It's already done.
And
There you
disseminate
go.
Yeah,
in
it
the
really
woods.
has.
Yeah.
How
Go for a
much
walk
lower
down
can
there.
it go, you know, it's down.
But again, if it's engineered, it'll be engineered to a standard that it will not fail. And
Yes.
I talked to an individual in Ashfield, and he said the annual inspection for their budget is $2,000. And he says DPW maintenance a couple days a year. So he'll be more than happy to come here and give a presentation of a a real life dam.
Yeah.
But he said $2,000 annually and 2 to 3 days of work by the DPW. And he says that they actively use their dam for stormwater and recreation. So people have been throwing around a lot of, suggested prices from 100,000 million down to nothing. So that is a real world case, and he says it's incredibly affordable for the value that it serves.
Well, for the value that he says that it serves for their community, so I hesitate to, say what happened there will happen here. So it's very important for us to understand that we may not be in the driver's seat of decision-making. We will know that, I would suspect, by the next select board meeting, as where we're at, and legally what our obligations are or what our obligations aren't. And so that will change the dynamic for us, so.
And one last thing, I'll shut up. That, if anybody's taking the time to get down there, it's no more than 2 or 3 feet below the dam now. That is not a full pump, reservoir.
I hear you.
That is very true. They did the evaluation in the first place at the full capacity of the 1932 dam. It hasn't been that way since 1932.
Well, 1980.
Okay, moving on.
Yep, that's a 15-minute time.
Okay, moving on to administrator search, discussion, and possible vote. We know that, Tammy, I know this is your last, I think, select board meeting, unless we end up having another one just because. But this will be Tammy's last time in a public meeting for, I guess they're all leaving. You're not half as interesting as the dam.
Best of luck, Tammy. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Okay, so Tammy will be leaving effective June 1st. And we have Mr. Greg Balakonis, who will be here as our interim town administrator. He has been here at least one day, but he will be here tomorrow. He will be with me at the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. He'll be working with us through the budgeting process and so on and so forth. He has a lot of experience, and he's been here before. And obviously, our obligation to the community is to get a town administrator, full-time town administrator, in the seat, working for our community and our citizens here as soon as we practically can. We're hoping that in early fall will be an opportunity for this person to join us. And we say that because most individuals in their contract, if they're coming from another agency or another community, have at least a 30, sometimes 60-day severance clause. So even after you get through the search process and you make some decisions, you offer the position, you've got another 30 to 45, maybe 60 days before you can get someone here. So we're hoping for, a mid-September, but that's not going to be easy to do.
Who takes care of those duties until then?
Mr. Balakonis will take care of those duties. Sandy will be doing double duty, and the selectmen will be doing things that generally Tammy would be doing. For example, who will monitor the playground? That'll be a Maureen thing, and she's going to go over the grant with me, so I can work with the accountants and make sure we have all the stuff paid for properly. And Richard will have responsibilities that he and I have talked about in negotiations with fire department and EMTs and so forth, so he'll pick up some of that duty. Mark has lots of hands-on duties for the playground, and we'll be spending a lot of time with Mr. Batchelor because we're going to do a lot of work ourselves, and Mark is going to be really heading that project. So those are the big things that we're working on, but obviously the budget is the biggest, and getting through that by July 1st is going to be our challenge.
And the interim, he's gonna be part-time as of.
He is
as was
part-time,
last,
yeah.
So you guys are gonna have some work to do.
We are gonna have a lot, we are gonna have a lot of work to do.
And also, are you gonna do an exit interview to make sure that things like grants aren't kind of shuffled under and missed, so then we end up being responsible for grant payments that weren't submitted?
Oh, listen, Sandy,
I just
Sandy,
need to say,
Sandy already knows.
okay.
She's on a very short leash, even though she's away.
Tammy.
And Tammy is going to be working with us on grants and so forth, and we'll be back and forth, phone calls. She's promised me she'll even come and visit and watch us post some things on. She also is gonna be with us when we cut the ribbon on the playground, because she's been really very instrumental in making that all happen. So we expect to have her communicating with Greg, just as, somebody's communicating with her over what's happening in Granby.
And one of the other issues was their interim administrator didn't have access to sites necessary to perform his duties, and he didn't have the passwords. So again, so there is gonna be communication. That's what we're trying to go through on a project with planning board. I'm not sure what site he was trying to log into.
He who?
The previous town administrator, Greg.
In his role,
You
apparently.
mean
there's
you've
certain
asked him
things he couldn't
recently
access.
to do?
When he was the
Oh, the
interim.
first round?
Yep, so he said he didn't have passwords and other things.
Well, he may not have. There may have been some things that certainly Jessica had and had passwords to, but she was very available to us, so I'm
Okay, for
surprised
some
she
reason
didn't.
he wasn't able to get into some of the
Okay.
sites we're trying to
Okay.
coordinate with.
Cool. There's always a way to do that. Okay, so, at any rate, he'll be working with us. We are going to put in his hands, the initial work for posting the job, putting the job description together with us, and obviously, getting a cadre of applicants. Once the applicants are found, we then will begin, to decide exactly how we will move forward. We are gonna move forward as expeditiously as we possibly can, and not look for, and the board will have to make this decision, a huge, search where we say, okay, let's get 16 people to sit down and go through the basics. We are going to go through the basics and say, these are the 10 candidates that we're gonna pursue, or the 5 candidates that we're gonna pursue. And then, obviously, get a finite group of people who will work with Greg and ultimately the board to take those 5 candidates and to begin to spend some time with them and to look at their backgrounds and that sort of thing. Because we have to have a really tight job description, so, people know what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do
Job
it.
description, but it's solidified in the bylaws
Yeah.
already.
Yeah,
Like, it
well,
is what it is.
whatever. Well, it is what it is, because it is what it is, no matter where you apply.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, but we need to make sure that the person, because they could be from out of state, whatever, because we did have some out-of-state candidates the last time, and so forth. So it is our intention that Greg will be kind of posting, advertising the job, and then he will be getting it down, and we will be deciding what kind of search committee, if we will have an elaborate search committee or something a little tighter, as we move forward.
Do you plan on adding money into the salary?
I think that will be something we probably have to do in order to be, a place where, yeah. If we don't, we probably will get many fewer applicants. I'm glad you asked that question.
No, I can't imagine coming to work for a town that's the top person making less than an employee in the town.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, you will make it always less than the people who plow roads. A time and a half, yes.
So, if I hear it right, your intent is to start the advertisement for the position before you get a search committee?
Yes.
Who could help Greg get things done, because he's only working part-time?
Well, I would like to have a conversation
Oh
with
my
Greg
God.
about how we would like to handle that. Sometimes, a search committee, depending on how they're chosen and so forth, may or may not be helpful to be expeditious. Sometimes it slows things down.
Vacation.
Do we want a search committee, and we need to make these decisions, do we want a search committee that represents the citizens only, or the employees and citizens together? How do we want to fashion that? There are those people who say, there was a search committee, and we came up with 3 wonderful candidates, and we presented them to the selectmen, and the selectmen said, we don't want any of those, and we picked somebody else. So there are people who've been burned by the search committee, or there's people who acted on that search committee and felt disregarded. It's important to understand that ultimately, even if the search committee says X and the board disagrees, the board can disagree. I mean, I'm not saying they should, but they can. this, you know, so, I don't wanna make decisions for Greg. I want him to have some opportunity to talk with us about what he thinks and why he thinks it. We wanna get out on the street, though. We wanna get some candidates interested in us and put together a little brochure that says, this is who we are. And we have to somehow explain, why does no one stay here? Why does no one stay here? I mean, it's a really tough job, and no matter where you are. And there's a lot of town administrators who move around, and we see that. So it's a tough job, it really is. You take a lot of, incoming from problems and this and that. We're not well-staffed, we don't have a robust, staffing pattern in this town. Everybody has to do a little extra now that Tammy's moving on for a period of time. And we can't drop the ball. We have to work really hard not to drop the ball. When I was gonna run for selectman, I said to Kathy, Kathy, roughly, how many hours a week you figure? She goes, oh, Maureen, 5. Well, that's a lie. Now, whether it was a lie just because I've had some turnover or whether it's just a lie, I don't know. But it's not 5 hours. It's 5 hours on some days, those are the slow days. So we know that this is a very tough job, and Sandy is not looking forward to the next 3 months, I would suspect. It's really, it's a huge burden. We did ask the Budget and Finance Committee if they would look at putting some money in so we could do some part-time secretarial work during the search time and relieving Sandy from some of this, because it's really hard if you want to really follow up and get the process going. So we'll be talking more about that when Greg is available to us. But as I said, he'll be coming tomorrow and working with Budget and Finance with me. The schools will be in attendance, and I believe the town clerk and somebody else. It's a big night for Budget and Finance.
It was both schools in the class.
Yeah, it's both schools for sure, yeah.
It was one of it, you're right there.
Yeah. So at any rate, we're not making any firm and final decisions as to what the whole process until we really have Greg here to work with us and, give us his insights into what he thinks would be in our best interest. Last time, when we got Tammy, we went out with a company, and I don't know, we were pretty much hands-off. We just ended up seeing the final 4, or the final whatever. And, it's difficult because you wonder, was there anybody else out there? Did somebody else really interesting apply? And so I kind of would like to look at the people who apply and who would maybe be a good fit for Barre. Barre has not had a good track record for whatever reasons. Money is one of them, was one of them. I hope we do better. So we'll see.
Do you conduct exit interviews of
Yeah,
the town administrators,
of course we
general
do.
employees, to see the reasons why they're leaving?
Of course we do.
Okay, so is there any sense of why? Is it just for more money? Was it because it came here?
I wish it was just for more money, because I could fix that.
Yeah.
It's sometimes about how they're treated. And I'm not talking about how they're treated by the selectmen, I'm talking about how they're treated by citizens.
So it's not just more money, because the idea too, not that we don't need
I
to
would-
pay the top position.
I would tell you, if you wanted to, the last, probably 6 interviews we've had, or exit interviews we've had, it's nothing about money.
Okay. So those are the problems that need to be addressed in order to get people to stay then?
It's really difficult to address citizen issues, it's just really difficult.
In a bigger picture view of this, without specifically, I also think because we have been so spread thin when it comes to actual resources, and I'm talking about time.
Yeah.
We don't have enough people for all the work, so everybody gets
You're right.
everything, and you're running up to the deadline for everything, and you miss a deadline, boom.
You have done
The
this
world
job.
goes upside down. And I know, I've called you out because you miss a deadline or something, you do something wrong. I know I've done it, whether it's just an open meeting post or
Yeah.
something, or an agenda item. But I do recognize the challenge, so I'm not trying to ever point to the person.
Mhm.
But I think that's part of the bigger picture admin-wise, is because you also don't have time to step back and say, what in the processes are making us rush everything?
Mhm.
Some of that, I think, sometimes is we ask too much of the town administrator and the town government with what I would call the additional projects that go beyond just operational, just what do you do day to day.
Mhm.
And so my question is, I think that is a big way of solving this problem, is focusing on how much we ask the town of the select board of the town administrator, the select board, just creating a list and say, just work on the top 5.
Mhm.
When we get 2 off the list, we'll look at the next 2 to add in, but right now, we can't do everything the town wants.
Mhm.
And we can always refer to the list. I'm just suggestions. I think that would help,
Mhm.
is, because it would then give them an easier, I can manage this much. You say, okay, let's do that much. Less deadlines might get missed, less mistakes in applications or anything that, it's a lot of work, I know, and shoot, I just try to do meeting minutes and agendas for 2 groups where I work. And the amount of time it just takes to write the minutes,
Mhm.
first of all, I've got a little ADHD, so that doesn't help. But it's the most burdensome thing, and it's the thing I wanna do right up to the last minute, because I hate it. And you've already lived it, you've already written your notes, but then you realize you might have to go back to the meeting because there's so
You
much
miss something.
distraction in the meeting, you miss a note, or, so I recognize that challenge and it sucks. So I'm just thinking maybe we do have to look at the big picture with the budget is also certain reduced services or certain delays on certain services because it's all we can do. Otherwise, we're so thin, nothing moves forward, it's just all stasis. So I'm just throwing it out there as a bigger picture about when we're looking at town
And I
administrator
think
and.
we always have to look at the history of the town as well, and understand that, in the DPW situation that we had. And when I rolled in and went to DPW meetings, okay, I'm used to going to school committee meetings with the secretaries to do this and everything, and everything was, shall we say, fluid, okay? They sort of got together and said, blah, 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 blah. I don't think, if there were minutes, there were 3 lines. We met, we talked, we adjourned, pretty much. So there was not a lot of focus there, and there was not a lot of training at all there. And so we certainly have had, it's been impactful, where citizens have now said to us, hey, people, due diligence, right? So so we had that big training for 2 hours the other night, so everybody could better understand open meeting law and trying to make it so that we didn't make mistakes, miss silly things, you're right. And so when you're learning something new or being required to do something you think is not important, people struggle against that. And so we've had some of those struggles, and Tammy, unfortunately, you've been here while we've been struggling. So it's not been easy, so I appreciate your insight into the job, because you've been here and done that. But obviously, there's just so much to do, and there is a sense of obligation, I think, that we have, that you wanna do it. You wanna make sure that the damn thing is fixed. No, I meant that in all the right ways. So, that being said, I guess we're gonna do another search, and I would suspect people look at us and say, how many town administrators have they had in the last 8 years? I don't know, like 5? And so, how much?
It's 7.
7? I mean, that says something, it has to say something to us. And it says to me, why is that? And I would say, you can't do the job, as you pointed out, you can't do this job. And without more support, you just can't. Not the way the citizens deserve it to be done. But anyway, whatever. So we'll be moving on with Greg posting and advertising, and we could take a vote just to indicate that we will be at this point providing the information that's necessary to post, advertise the position of town administrator. We want to have a motion?
I make a motion that we instruct Greg when he's on board to work on the advertisement in preparation of going out
For town administrator.
for town administrator, yes.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to post and advertise the position of town administrator with the help and counsel of Greg Balakonis when he joins us officially, which is tomorrow. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Okay, we have a warrant that's open for the annual town meeting, and we have some things people have indicated that they would like placed on the town meeting warrant. We have a DPW Commission restructure article, which is a citizen petition. It's not a petition, it's a request of us to advertise that, or to include that a no plastic bags warrant article, a meals tax warrant article, Caruso Construction, I see he's here, a proposed zoning change article that is going to be placed. All of these that have been requested of the select board, we will review just quickly tonight for approval to be placed on the warrant. Ultimately, obviously, we will approve the warrant in total when that is finalized. I believe, do we have on here the opportunity to extend the warrant
Yes.
period? Because we felt it was a little short, with only being 2 weeks.
General business.
So we're gonna do that a little later. So we have those warrant articles, a DPW Commission restructure article that's been submitted, the plastic bags article that will impact some of the local establishments in town. So we will need to have that group, which is an environmental group, to get out and talk with places that, you know, are currently using plastic bags.
What do they want them to use?
I would suspect they will be asking them to do is, when you shop in some places, I'm getting a paper bag. When shopping in other places, they say, bring your own bag. And when I'm shopping in still some other places, they're still using plastic. So, Caruso Construction, I know he's here tonight. Not that we're looking for a lot of information on these articles. They've been explained, and they will be part of the warrant article. Does anybody have any further questions on warrant articles that we have seen so far?
Have they been provided in the draft form or just title form?
I would say there's some titles and there's some in very specific draft form. I believe the warrant submitted most recently to restructure the DPW Commission is very similar to what you saw last year, and so that will be on there.
After Mr. Caruso talks, can we talk again about the DPW restructure?
You can just talk quickly about that. Is
It's similar language?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And it will be obviously available to the public when the warrant is reviewed in title. It will be actually,
Mid-May.
yeah, mid-May.
Just leave it as mid.
Yeah, mid-May.
Somewhere around there.
Fast, fast.
And it will be posted, you know, so that you know what the warrant articles are.
So the citizens petition right now until you guys, unless you guys vote.
Oh, we will, yeah, we will vote, I mean, he can get 10 signatures pretty easy at the annual town meeting. So we're not forcing anybody to have a citizen's petition. He has just asked us to place it on the warrant, and the board will act on that, and I don't see an issue for not putting it
And
on.
adding additional, like the cutoff isn't there yet, like a citizen. So they submit the 10 signatures to the clerk or to you guys?
To us guys, yeah. If you had something you wanted as a citizen's petition. I mean, you could give us something that we may just say, yeah, we'll put this on without having to go through, but getting 10 signatures is pretty easy.
Tim said we're supposed to vote on each
Well,
other.
yeah, because if you join the vote and you don't want to put it on there, you have to go and get the 10 signatures.
Oh, okay.
So if you vote, then they're all set.
Okay. So I mean, I'm prepared to entertain votes on those
Say that again?
matters.
Is it in his
The
email?
DPW Commission, the plastic
email,
bag
so.
issue, the meals tax, and after Mr. Caruso makes his presentation, our obligation is to let the town speak to it. If they're interested in it, I mean, and it's a reasonable request, we're probably gonna put it on,
Right. I agree. The voice of the town be heard.
yeah. Mr. Caruso?
How's everybody doing?
I don't know, how are you doing, Jim?
You guys get that package?
Yes,
All right.
we have it.
So basically what I'm asking is the place where we had the gravel pit, I'd like to reclaim it by putting houses in.
When you say gravel pit, can you give me the location?
Yeah, it's right across from where the Legion is.
Yep.
Okay, where
Yeah.
I've got an entryway
Yeah, I see
going in
it.
there, and got big piles of room, I never took any room off the property. We're just cleaning it now, getting ready for when we put down. But, basically, I'd like to go from, it's all R20 all around,
Mhm.
going up Town Farm and down Valley Road. And I'd like to take the backland, also make that R20, okay? It abuts the senior center,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and I'd like to, so it's no impact on the town, I'd like to put 6 of those. There's actually 2 lots there already that are on the street, which I could do anything. But I'd like to do over 55 with 6 of the units that are gonna be close to the senior center.
Mm-hmm.
And like if you look at the houses that we have up by the post office right now, thank you, 3 out of the 4 are people retired.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's really not having any impact. I kind of designed them for people who just want their kids to come visit and take off. You know?
So how many of these over 55 units do you want to put?
750. It'd be like 6. Okay, but I might do duplexes like I did up there, but they're gonna be smaller. I wanna get a different price point, because it's very difficult for people to, you know, especially if people in Barre want to stay in Barre, I'm try to keep the price under.
And a lot of them are fixed income, so that's
Exactly.
also an issue.
You know,
It's a great
everything's getting more expensive, including building the houses.
I have
So-
I have a silly question. What is R20?
R20 means you can have 20,000 square feet and 120 feet of frontage to make a house lot.
Gotcha.
Right now, most of the zoning around town is R80, where it's 80,000 square feet, okay? And you need 200 feet of frontage. Now, in this case here, this property, I got water and sewer stubbed right at the street. So it's gonna bring it up. It's gonna be, you know, let's say I do duplexes, and still have basically condos. Okay, it's basically $7,500 per unit. I mean, so that's 150,000 just in fees. Then another 80,000 in water fees. What's that?
To tie into the sewer,
Oh,
just to get started, that's income that he's saying to the town.
Right.
Yeah, not to mention.
He's our new
building
growth guy.
permits. Yeah. You guys
Right
want
now.
growth, we want more people. We really do. I mean, I'd rather see our town coming up instead of going down. But that's the location. I had.
Recommendation for, I mean, we'll put it on,
Yeah.
because people should have the opportunity to vote upon it.
Right, that's what it's, so from here, I believe we're gonna go to planning board. Okay, so I actually set this up, I don't know if it's good enough for you, where you guys can just sign, and I can go to the meeting and get it scheduled for a public hearing, so everybody can put their input. We already started a preliminary design.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys want a copy of that, or if you already got a copy of that.
It's in there.
No, we don't get yet. Grab down, you can make copies. This one still has Ed Russo on it, but it's really hyperlinked.
Jim, where's the entrance?
What's that?
Where's the entrance in relation to the region?
Right where the driveway is now is where I'd like to put it.
Your existing gravel driveway?
Yes. But I'd have to make the road a little bit longer staying there, but the reason why I want to keep it there is because it gives the 2 people that are right on the road there, right now, there's trees and, you know, a big buffer with gravel and, but it would be beneficial if I went in that way, because for me, but, you know, it's gonna leave a lot of privacy for them. I left a row of trees in the back of those people's houses, probably about 20, 30 feet wide, to help with screen, basically, knowing that I was gonna do this down the road.
So tell me, Jim, so this will be on the town meeting. Obviously, planning board will be making some recommendation or not, or whatever, right?
Well, I think what town council said that they wanted the zoning done first. So I can't really do a preliminary plan and go through the process until we do the zoning change. Then we'll do the public hearings with the planning board to get this approved. We won't have to go to town after, once the zoning gets changed to that.
Well, your proposal's in keeping with what's already there, R20. There's already R20 lots in that area.
Yes, yeah, all along the road, but typically around town, it only goes back 200 feet you know, all around town is, you know, there's a
Well,
couple
you got
places
R15,
down by.
R20, and R80.
Yeah, like Higgins's property on the other
Yeah.
side is all R20 up
Yep,
town farm,
yep,
and I'm kinda happy with that.
yep.
So that's my spiel, do you, anybody have any questions, or?
Well, these proposed zoning changes, tell me, who has the final authority to make these changes?
What do you mean?
Town meeting.
Okay, it's town meeting, right?
Yeah, the town
So
votes,
all we're doing is putting these things on ballot.
put it on the warrant, yeah, that's it. And then, you know, I just gave you this so you can kinda see.
Right, that's helpful, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then,
That's-
yeah.
Appreciate the
And I got
point.
some good property there where I might be able to take some of the burden. Here's another one of the people on town farm. I can direct some of the water, because there's really no place to go with it. We'd have to get some permission from some of the people,
Mhm.
just to cut through the back of my property. It's all gravel up there, I can make it so it all dissipates in the ground
Mhm.
before it gets to that pond, you know, down the road.
So point of clarification, so the planning board would act after the zoning change at town meeting?
Yes.
From what I understand is if he presented his zoning, his subdevelopment, it would have to be adhered to the zoning at the time it was approved.
Okay.
So in theory, he's presenting R20 in an R80.
The time was submitted, not approved.
Yep, so once it's
Gotcha.
approved as R20, then he can make his submittal, so then it would all conform. So then, that's the way we're advised to proceed
Yeah.
for grades and.
So town meeting is the next step.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Again,
Our
when
job,
people
our
are
job is to
voting-
get you there.
Got it.
Got it.
Okay, and do I have to go to you before town meeting or not?
From what I understand,
No?
we can review it, but you need to get your zoning.
I think there's some legal obligation for the select board to ask the planning board to make a recommendation.
Okay.
And there is a weird timeline, so I would follow up, yes. I
Okay.
think when the zoning change is presented to you to put on a warrant, there's a request to send it to the planning board to get a recommendation and have it back.
Well, I'm
Right.
already scheduled, I'm
But you're-
already
you're
at the
just-
end of the tomorrow request.
So they're
Okay.
two separate
Okay.
things. One is the subdevelopment, one is the zoning change.
Right, this is, speaking of the zoning change timeline, yeah.
I would imagine planning board would be asked to speak on town meeting floor, make a recommendation.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, any other questions?
I make a motion that we allow this zoning bylaw and zoning map change to be presented at the annual town meeting on June 24th, 2025.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to allow the information shared with us about the changes in zoning be on the warrant for the annual town meeting. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck, James.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
That was helpful.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I did one with it, one without.
Yeah.
Same thing.
What was that say?
Okay, and I have my,
Real quick,
there's a,
the information Jimmy gave in the beginning, super helpful with the numbers, can that somehow get relayed to the finance committee when they're voting on it?
Jim,
Can you get that revenue coming from?
Can he go to your meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Do you go to your meeting tomorrow night?
Yes.
I was thinking more of the joint meeting when the finance committee's gonna vote in favorable on articles, it would be helpful to just present the, you just listed $300,000 in fees coming in.
you know, when is that joint meeting?
Oh, it's not, it hasn't even been set yet.
Okay, town meeting is when?
24th, June,
June 24th?
24th.
Jim, do you need this?
Or do we need
I gotta give that to Mary Ann, I believe.
Mary Ann?
What's
So
that?
let's get back to Sandy.
Goes to Mary Ann.
Okay, yep.
And maybe a estimate on like income and property tax.
Email me on.
Thank you, Jim. Could I have a motion to put the DPW Commission restructure article, the article for plastic bags and meals tax on the annual town meeting warrant, please?
Yeah, I move to put the DPW Commission restructure article, plastic bags and the meals tax on the town warrant, please.
Town warrant for the 24th of June.
I'll second that
We
motion.
have a motion made and seconded to put the DPW Commission restructure article, plastic bag issue, and also the meals tax on the annual town meeting warrant for June 24. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'm sure we'll have some others, because we're gonna extend the number of days we have for the town meeting warrant. Central Mass Rail Trail letters of support, we have letters of support that have been placed before us to support the extension and improvement of the Central Mass Rail Trail areas. Could we have a motion?
I make a motion that we support the, just go for the correct terminology, the rail trail, sorry.
Central Mass Rail Trail?
Yeah, I lost my place here. Central Mass Rail Trail letters of support on behalf of the select board.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to support the extension and improvement of the Central Mass Rail Trail system. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have that to be signed too.
Yeah, and we need to sign those, obviously, to get those going. CMRPC FY 2025 delegate and alternate. We need an alternate from the select board, which is going to be Richard Stevens. The second alternate will be Mark Reginas. Do we have a motion? What?
I move,
Sure.
Just procedural.
I move to appoint, what's that?
Nothing,
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to find where you are.
Richard Stevens to the CMRPC FY 2025 Select Board alternate.
We have a motion, I will second that motion, and a motion made and seconded is that Select Board alternate to CMRPC for 2025 would be Richard Stevens. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We need a motion for Select Board second alternate, Mark Reginas. Mr. Stevens?
I make a motion that we appoint Mark Reginas as the second alternate to Central Mass Regional Planning FY 2025 delegate.
I would second that. We have the motion on the floor, made and seconded, to authorize the second alternate to the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission of Mark Reginas. Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you both for agreeing to do that extra duty. Master Planning Committee appointment. We do have an individual who has indicated an interest in being appointed to that steering committee, and that would be John Dixon. Do we have a motion?
I would move to appoint John Dixon, the Master Plan Steering Committee.
I second that motion.
We have a motion made and seconded to elect or appoint John Dixon to the Master Plan Steering Committee. Those in favor?
Aye.
John, as you know, has been the kind of leader in this for the Select Board in his previous 3 years with us, so we're happy he's agreed to stay on.
I think it's important
Yeah.
to do it.
Master Plan Select Board Representative appointment, discussion and vote. Do we have something to discuss about that?
One of us should be on there,
Don't all jump.
because John did represent the select board in the
Yeah.
previous,
Yeah.
in phase one. Now we're moving on to phase two, so we should have some representation.
I don't think we can expect he's gonna do any more than he's already just being appointed as a committee member. Do we have any, have we advertised the position at all?
It's the first time.
This would be for us.
It's by the charge, there's a
Yeah.
representative from the select
It
board.
would be for one of us.
Yes.
Oh, God,
There are open seats, but this is just for us.
don't all jump.
And would you be able to share me the current list of members and the number of vacancies? Appreciate it.
Well,
Okay. How many meetings? Sandy,
We
huh?
just had a Zoom whenever she was on with me.
yeah, I mean, I
John,
think they're gonna try to meet once a month at
Yes.
least, maybe a couple, but typically once a month. It's
And
kind of
then
helps.
certain events add a couple additional here
Correct.
and there.
Correct, yeah. Yeah.
That's only 5 hours a month.
You got it,
Well, my,
Mark, anybody interested? I got Central Mass.
Do you need one of us to nominate one of you?
well, I mean, I know that I do have other evening engagements, my
Right.
other work, but
Right.
I would do it, but I hate to say to you, yeah, geez, I could do another meeting every week. It'd be really very difficult. So, you know, to fill a slot and put my name in, but I would say to you, I never miss a meeting, but I don't want to sign up in a situation where I know I would be missing a lot of them.
How often do they meet?
They say once a month, but that's always a lie.
Well, what about all the meetings that I'm in that they never say anything about?
Yeah, I know, huh? Okay, well, I will take it, if somebody wants to recommend that I do it, I'll do
Well,
it for.
just, again, the steering committee as a whole may only meet once a month, but it's large enough where people will break off to get things done. And so the select board member doesn't necessarily have to be in those
In the
subcommittees.
break-offs.
You're kind of just doing the monthly, and then you
Right.
come back and tell the select board what's going on.
Right.
And they say, oh, could you kind of move it this way or that way,
Is
or?
there any way
Okay.
that- is there a
That's,
way that we
that's
could
what I
just fill
believe
in
that
for each other?
role was, just to
Okay.
make sure the whole
Is there any way,
board was
like, we
aware
could
of
just-
what's going on.
Well, I mean, if it's that and not, you know, you get on there and then you're really on two other committees inside the.
John went well above
Well, yeah,
what was
we did.
necessarily expected for the selectmen in
And
that
it's,
role.
you know, some
But-
grant.
Well, thanks, Matt.
For the
You've
positive.
now,
I was
you've
gonna
now
say,
made a case,
There's
so,
the grant money, we have only till June 30th, because they ended up giving our grant late. This was a grant that we actually applied for last year. We ended up getting it late, so we have like 2 months to spend like $20,000.
What?
Yes, it's, so.
so what, we can spend 20,000.
So I don't know who wants to be on, but we need to,
I'm guessing they're gonna do a lot of work for us on this phase.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Back at their
Yeah,
office.
Trish said.
Crunching numbers.
Trish said she could,
this sounds really, you know, kind of awful, but if somebody wants to recommend.
but can't we
I'll
have
do
a,
it.
can't we have a, like, if you couldn't go, one of us could go? Like, so we
Sure,
don't miss
Richard, I'll
out.
be happy to call you. Richard,
No, we just did that with Central Mass Regional Planning.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I
Just be the
would,
guy
we
then.
just did it for Central Mass
I-
Regional.
I will
You
make
could
it-
also just ask the chairperson to come and give you an update.
yeah,
You know.
I will sign me
And
up.
if you miss a meeting, you miss a
Alright.
meeting.
If you wanna make a
I make a
motion,
motion that we appoint Dr. Marshall to the. Am I
Second?
appointing?
thanks, Mark.
Second.
Master Plan Steering
Send
Committee.
you for all that stuff.
We have a motion made and seconded to nominate and to send Marshall to the Master Plan Steering Committee appointment. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, it's a vote. What about John Dixon when you need him, huh?
He'll be there
Okay,
with his whole
just
binder of
just an
originals.
update on High Plains speed bumps. I talked with the DPW superintendent today. He indicated he thought this week we were gonna get some speed bumps up there.
Yes.
And we're all of a mind that this may not work, but we're hopeful. We're trying to slow traffic down there, and the size of the speed bumps we probably need to slow traffic down does not work with our emergency vehicles, especially our ambulances. So the size of the speed bumps will not be as aggressive as we would like, so we don't know. So, but we're doing everything we can to kind of slow traffic down. I do try to swing up there occasionally, and it is a very tight place. There's traffic parked on both sides. There's children, especially this time of year, in and out of the cars, and they're claiming that most of the speeding is not from the locals, it's from delivery trucks. They kind of speed up in there. It's a real hard place to speed. It really is. It's very tight, but if you don't know that there's a child behind every or between every double parked car, you could make a really sad situation worse. So anyway, those will be up there this week, and
Go try them out.
yeah, so we're good about that. Now we have, are we talking a little bit about Christmas? We have a special events application for Christmas in Barre, which is, there's every form you could possibly complete has been completed for that.
That's the last
It's all in
one.
your packet.
Yep.
And we need to approve the date, time, and so forth of Christmas in Barre. So the motion?
Yep, I would move to approve the special events for Christmas in Barre for December 6th, 2025.
10 a.m. to 3. Have a second?
Yeah, I was just looking at the dates too, Sandy, it's 12/3 and 12/4 is listed here, so should we include that in the motion? Would have Matt include that?
What is that, I'm sorry?
Set up dates,
What's that,
12/3 and
That-
12/4?
That was already included on the request to use
Okay,
the
okay.
town hall,
All right, so
so.
we're good. I'll
This
second
is-
that motion.
So we have a motion made and seconded
Thank
to
you.
approve the special events application of the, what has become the annual Christmas in Barre event.
That particular day.
Yeah, and those in favor?
All right,
Thank you. Speaking of special events, Sandy, I put the flags up in the bunting, but sometimes I disrupt the Christmas lights on the big monument.
We'll take it.
You're doing the bunting, I've just destroyed it so many times, you don't let me do it anymore on the bunting. Okay, so just letting you know, I have it all bunting, all set, we're good. I have everything you need.
Oh,
Tie
okay.
wraps, everything, I can go down there and start the process if you want.
Kevin and I will go, you're all set, just give me the stuff.
Okay, alrighty, so thank you for that. Old business, extend the warrant deadline until May 16th at 5 PM. That gives us sufficient time with the articles to still make the 24th with no problem, but it does give the public a little more time if they have a warrant article that they would like to submit. So I need a motion and a vote on that, please.
Yeah, I'd move to extend the town warrant deadline until Friday, May 16th at 5 PM.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion made and seconded to extend the town meeting warrant article deadline till May 16th at 5 PM. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then item B is obviously something we're not going to discuss, the possible vote on proposed options for the old reservoir dam at this time.
Can we go back to the grass, because they
Sure.
wanted us to move quickly, and we did resolve the grass issue for the common, Memorial Day's coming, and
Okay, well, I would say let's talk with Tim and see what he would recommend, what they can do.
sure,
Because he's got two grounds people, but they may or may not have the sophistication to do what we need to do. We need to do some, soil
Yep.
testing,
yep,
that sort of thing.
Yep.
So,
okay.
Can the 5,000 in the shade tree budget be used for that? It's gonna roll over because it never gets used.
I just don't know if it needs to be a shade tree or if we could fix the lawn with it.
Is there verbiage on that?
I don't know if there's verbiage, it's probably been sitting there for a while.
It rolls out over every single year, it never gets used as shade tree.
Yeah. We have some monies, of course, in the budget, in the commons and stuff, but certainly if there's some money sitting there that we could do some, because if we don't get to it pretty quickly, it's gonna be too late.
It's gonna spread.
Right. We're gonna get seed to grow too, if we don't,
Yeah.
it gets hot in the summer.
Could you explain the shade tree budget? That's new to me.
I'm
We have
sorry?
The shade tree budget?
Is that what you,
I have no idea what it's for, I just always read the shade tree.
it must be
Yeah.
something for the
I
commons.
think it was adopted back when Dave Carlson was the tree warden in Barre.
Every year it rolls over and over
And
and
it was
over,
the-
and it's just.
Because we do have some dead trees still
We have-
planted on the common.
We have more than some, we have quite a few.
You have 3 that are gonna be planted tomorrow, I believe.
That's from the
National Grid.
National Grid.
And we planted 3 the 250th, I don't know if they're, I haven't stopped to see what they're doing, but those were planted last fall by Ira and Glidden.
Yeah, the one on top of School Street on the left is dead.
So we'll have to look at all those.
There's a couple trees on that North Common that really need attention.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, that being said, so the dam is, on hold at this point in time. We'll keep you appraised of the information that we get, which we should be able to get pretty quickly, because we do have the documents that we can share and do. I know, it's really absurd.
It's beyond us.
No, I think it's so typical. I really do, I just think it's so
Unfortunately.
typical. Okay, well, we have worked really hard after we all got trained for open meeting. Do you see how detailed our
That was
agenda
good.
is?
We
Okay,
liked it.
okay, I'm just saying, we're working at it, we're not perfect, but we're working at it.
It was appreciated from
we-
at least me.
We would entertain a motion to adjourn?
Okay. First, make a public comment?
Sure.
So in fiscal conservative, seeing that we're gonna be running such a budget shortfall, and recently I took a walk through Rice Park, and not only is the maintenance not up to standard, but there's standing safety liabilities if there's a metal pipe sticking out of the ground.
We know.
There's a list you go down, but even on the common, a lot of the rails and the fence posts are rotting.
We know. We are in contact with the common group who have money left over from the work that has been done there. They are very aware of the situation. We're not going to use the same sort of pine that was chosen this time, because that
Mike's
was,
on there, right?
yeah,
Mike, what?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that was not a good thing. But Paul Cranston, who is going to be leaving the community and relocating down south to play golf more, he is, working with others, and I talked with Mark as well about painting and how he has the capacity to do a lot of painting quickly with the machines type thing. But we obviously, I'm gonna say that half of them are absolutely rotted.
Yeah, no, they're rotting right now.
right off. I mean, so, they're not gonna be done by Memorial Day, but we do hope, obviously, maybe as we get into the summer months. But it's taking us time to get what we need to get to replace them.
Yeah, but, so my main point was that if you could set up a variety of volunteer committees to possibly work under the DPW superintendent to take maintenance ownership of certain areas of the town.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a variety of groups, I mean, maybe the senior center would like to take, you know, a certain part of the town and go up and do just basic maintenance. I mean, a lot of the seniors like to maintain gardens, bulbs and whatnot. That's the most intensive part of a lot of these installations that have been put in over the years, next to the old town hall. Looking good, put in a bunch of trees and whatnot, and they're pretty well neglected. So that's one thought, whether or not the town would be interested in opening up certain areas to independent groups to take ownership and pride.
I know
in
that there are independent groups that take care of all of the flowers that are, and the potted flowers across the community. There are groups that do that.
So
And maintain those over the season and so forth. So we could do that, but there are some things that, you know, are pretty extensive, like replacing the number of railings that we're gonna replace
Yeah.
is beyond what a, you know,
Not replacing the railings, but the painting of the railings is something that you could get a community group. I mean, not to say last time, we used to have some kids up there, they would paint more stone than
I
wood.
know.
You know, that we wanna make sure that there's a certain level of quality that's adhered to. But like Rice Park, I mean, that's something where,
Well, Rice
If-
Park needs a much more aggressive approach. Some of that stuff has to be ripped out of there. You shouldn't even have it at child's playground. So we're gonna be working on that as an extension of what we're doing at High Plains. We would have probably done something different there, made it more of a picnic kind of park with benches and so on, and very little stuff for kids to play on, because there's such a need for people to have a decent bench. Even replacing the benches on the common is really pretty much necessary. So, Rice Park is hard because it's really, topography is awful, it's all ledge. It's really hard to dig very deeply, so we know, and you know, the basketball court that's in there is pretty bad. To replace that is huge money, unless and until maybe the DPW can take, you know, have some time to get in there and rip that out and redo that, because we do have the hardtop or, you know, asphalt plant in town, so you never know if we could get some, but that's kind of an expensive thing. And there are people who swear by it, they want that park there, they want it, then there's the other things, get the kids out of here. They're noisy, they're disruptive, and we don't want that basketball court there.
but that's what makes a community.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I hear
Yeah,
you.
but I'm just saying that.
You know how you love the dam? Well, there are people who love their quiet.
Well, then you don't buy a house next to a park,
Where is this?
right in the center of
What are we
it.
talking?
Well, it's right, it's going down, you know, we go by P and F, or you go down there, and then you go on your right-hand side. There's the parking lot that's there, and then there's sort of a little park, a place where some kids
Okay, I know
could be on a
exactly.
slide or climb on a wall or that sort of thing.
But again, aside from my original point of just finding community groups to take ownership of parcels to alleviate the financial budget, with Rice Park specifically, I'm amazed at how many people bring their kids up there to play, and there's nothing for them to play on because it's so neglected.
Well, there's
So
nothing
that-
safe for them to play on.
Right, but I'm just saying that there is a significant need for a place for young kids and parents to bring. So it turned into just a seating area, I don't see that being the use that that area is called for.
Mhm.
So I do think that, you know, the use of that area would be for, you know, player, for small kids and families, because High Plains is out of the way, most people never know it exists. You know, Felton Field is a little out of the way, most young kids can't get there. But that is centrally located, and it is, you know, out in public view. So I think it does provide a level of safety and accountability for kids.
I don't think we can get rid of it, because Rice Park, there's
Yes.
language.
Yeah. is
No,
it-
no, not get rid of it, but I'm saying to redevelop
Right,
it
right.
and get it
Well,
away
it
from
has to be a
recreational.
playground.
We spent a lot of time with the playground grant, trying to get
Yep.
extra money to do that. That is a tough place because there's so much ledge there, that putting some of the footings in for some of this equipment is really tough.
I think you've already allocated 75,000 out of ARPA for it, so since ARPA is done and over with, I don't think you can reallocate ARPA money, I think you're kind of stuck.
No, I'm saying we didn't, and so now, if we end up not needing all of our ARPA money for that, we certainly could use it for some other playground. because otherwise we'll give it back to the government.
No, but I thought you did vote to authorize $75,000 to be used in that park.
Yeah, we're hopeful that we don't have any overruns anywhere where, you know, because, so, we'd like to do that. We have a design, we have a company that's ready to go, but their concern is, they said, you get the old stuff out. They don't even wanna be involved in that. They're very concerned about being able to put the footings in necessary to do the equipment that they.
Is that pipe something we should have DPW look at?
Immediately. Yeah, it's a,
If it's a safety issue, we wanna make sure they.
it's a 3/4 inch rusted pipe sticking a foot out of the ground.
Where is it? Where in Rice Park is it?
So you got the rock climbing wall that's
Yep.
been completely destroyed, then you
Yep.
get this little swingy thing, but it's over in the stone area that's now full of
Okay.
breakers.
You know
So it's by all the other playing.
You know
fields.
what's bizarre to me, is so much damage in that place.
Yep.
We fix it and it just gets destroyed.
And it's right out in the open.
And it's right out in the open, whereas High Plains, which has been there for like 40 years, okay, that is, I'm telling you, they have tons of kids up there, they have 40 or 50 kids there, and the parents are on it, I mean, they are on it, and that's not the case, because sort of, there's not any houses around that Rice Park, and I don't think there's the level of,
And why are we going?
I don't
A
know.
little bit, but I think too, due to neglect, like, you know,
Well, it's
neglect,
gonna go.
begins
Yeah.
neglect, and when the town doesn't take pride in the area, the kids don't use it. But is there a committee that's
They
working on
didn't
Rice
know
Park?
this.
That'd be interesting to know that.
Then we're gonna.
Well, I know that we already have a design for that area. We've met with the public down there, we had a posted meeting about, it would probably be a year and a half ago.
I'm in a butter on 2 properties, and I never received any notices.
Well, it was in the paper, it was a selectmen's meeting that was actually on the site. And we did
Sign 'em
have,
up. He wants to help, sign 'em up.
and we did have parents that attended and so forth and gave us their insight into what they thought would be useful there. And same thing up at High Plains, we had a posted meeting up there, met with parents.
But again, I mean, that's one of the issues that I keep coming back on in this town, that we don't have public input. And then when it's brought up, you say, well, we did the minimum. Well, when you do the minimum posting, you get the minimum participation. Again, I'm a landowner and a butter on 2 parcels.
That's wonderful. I'm happy you are. Because
Yeah,
when
I'm
you,
just
when
saying
you,
that
when you say to us that we have not done our due diligence with
No,
playground
I'm saying you've
stuff.
done the minimum due diligence.
No. How can you say that? When we are going to be
What's
putting
that?
in a $200,000 playground, where is the densest population of children in this area, we're putting that in. We have additional money for Rice Park. We have met with the parents down there. We have met with Mohawk, where they have the smaller children that are getting their help through that state program.
Yep.
We've met with them, we understand their needs. We obviously have some issues with how our parking lot is used, primarily as a place for people who are getting their cars repaired. And so we're saying, if, there may be some need for change there. We know, we've also had the vegetation reviewed at that area, which is horrible. There is so much poison ivy and other things that have to be taken out of that area in order to make it safe for children. We have met with the rock climbing people, okay, and said, maybe rock climbing, it just isn't for that park, for the little ones. Okay, yeah, maybe it's too difficult to maintain. There needs to be benches and seating there, okay, for obviously parents to be not on guard, but there with children. That is more of a grade, what we call age 2 to 5 playground, according to the playgrounds people who know what playgrounds are.
No, I would agree.
They're not, whereas we're doing a 2 to 5 and a 5 to 12 combo up in High Plains. So when you say we haven't done due diligence on playgrounds, I will venture a guess.
No, I'm saying outreach to the community.
Yeah.
Like, again, I am in a butter, and I don't even know that there's been money allocated to upgrade a facility that's in front of my property.
All I gotta say, it's been on our minutes, it's been certainly part of our outreach, we have been out on the sites. We have invited, neighborhoods there, we certainly had neighborhood people there who showed up.
Conservation Planning Board, I get a certified letter in the mail if I'm in a butter. That's all I'm saying, is that I thought that would have been appropriate to just notify the abutters formally instead of, I'm pretty busy. I volunteer for multiple departments. I put quite a bit of time into this town, and I haven't heard about that. And so.
I have,
Is
okay.
this something that should be put on the agenda for the next meeting?
See, I spend a lot of time in this town too.
I'm
you know
serious.
what? And I don't know anything you're doing in conservation. Because I'm not a butter, sometimes I'm a butter and I get a letter, but I don't spend a lot of time with that, so.
Adjourn, right?
Yeah, we're ready to
Thank
adjourn.
you.
Yeah.
Make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Looks like a draft vote.
Tammy, thank